When in the past, great men have endeavored to postulate that the resources of our earth are finite and near exhausted, they have done so with the uncommendable haste and imprudence of the civilized that so vainly, within its own excess, critiques the consumption of others as conspicuous, when in fact it is necessary to survival. We find ourselves now in the dawn of a century in which a small class of people control methods of production, as well as the dissemination of cultural ideas by means of such control. It is by this ability that those who have invented a creed or doctrine, solely for the purpose of intellectual stimulation, can present themselves as having an unequivocal truth within this world. Look, for example, to the guano age, in whose twilight we currently exist. Such a coveted, paradoxically critical resource led powerful countries, such as the United States, to such grand and circuitous acts as annexing trivial islands within the Pacific Ocean. Within these particular islands annexed by the United States for the production of guano, their tumultuous status as territory of the United States led to untold exploitation of workers by corporations that wished to hoard the bizarre material, which further led to legal proceedings that have established a means for American imperialism and cultural hegemony in the Pacific sphere. In the wake of all this scurrying for scatological capital, few men of the educated classes have thought to pursue the artificial synthesis of ammonia for agricultural reasons. This is not due to a love of bird feces, my friends. This is due to the cultural hegemony of the class that mediates culture. And the great narrative that many learned men have propagated to placate the starving masses is that there is an inevitability of scarcity. Look, for example, to Thomas Malthus, who in his essay on the principle of population, flabbergated that the power of population is so superior to the power of the earth to produce subsistence for man, that premature death must in some shape or other visit the human race. The vices of mankind are active and able ministers of depopulation. They are the precursors in the great army of destruction, and often finish the dreadful work themselves. Malthus' perspective was that the exponentially increasing population that he saw at the dawn of the Industrial Revolution would lead to a natural scarcity due to the limited capacity of the earth to provide for its denizens. His view of population growth was one in which a ballooning population directly leads to poverty due to the aforementioned inability for enough resources to be drawn from the earth to satisfy the demands of the human population. Though he was somewhat right about overpopulation contributing to poverty, he framed it in a way that viewed such poverty as an inevitability of the limitations of production, rather than a result of the proliferation of the bourgeois class. In addition, he frames the struggle of the working class as a reflection of their vices. My brothers, can it truly be said that the satisfaction of one's basic physical needs, such as food, shelter, or clean water and air, is a vice? He could not visualize the suffering of the poor and thus saw things in a pragmatic, liberalist view. In reality, our earth holds more than enough to satisfy its population's needs. The only thing preventing this is the uneven distribution of such resources. These propositions are by no means a new thing to any of us. I seek not to echo platitudes here, but to establish a definitive basis for my critique. When one thinks of the passions bestowed upon man by his Creator, one thinks immediately of the vulgarity, the profanity of them in a way that may be at odds with the nature of humanity. How can we find a place for this nature separate from the divine? How can we establish a social order which promises to each man that which he needs, and takes from him a due and just contribution of labor to the greater society? How can we at once establish an order that is once harmonic and democratic, and in addition, in unity with the natural world? Many great men have proposed solutions, some of which have found their end in disastrous attempts at communal living. I propose a new method that will satisfy many and introduce a harmonious unity of action that will no doubt free us from a great number of social ills. It is the notion of the free sample. There seems to be, among nature, a given bounty which eludes the notion of natural selection that has been proposed in recent decades. Why would the Creator bestow upon us such earthly wonders, to fulfill our appetites and our imaginations with splendor, if he did not see within it a natural order in which these things were promised to all? Was the fruit that Adam ate what led him to concede, like the civilized often will, with hands thrown up in a callow gesture of accepted inevitability, that a natural order of men will organize itself in which an unequal burden is laid upon some, and others are given a bounty so immense as to defy all notions of natural right? It is absurd. No just and omniscient Creator would envision such a social order. There is a way to satisfy all the passions of individual men, of disparate classes and creeds, that is in this horrid subversive society which we now occupy, unforeseeable. I can now see the reader of this treatise, splayed perhaps upon a couch or chair of some kind, setting into the lazy stupor of an after-dinner nap, raising their hand in a gesture of scorn at my claims, disturbed by the idea of a unity of action being the highest order, or even attainable amidst the vast depths of passion in each man. It is this order of passions which is the only human element commensurate to the sublimity of nature. As such, one can be overcome with a profound terror seeing it ordered in a systematic, pragmatic fashion. I assure you, ex animi sententia, there is no authoritarian element within the author's conceptions.